I wasn't planning to ruin her marriage. But then again, I wasn't planning to be accused of turning her son gay either. Life throws curveballs and sometimes you catch them with both hands and throw them right back. It started 3 months ago when my sister-in-law, Hannah, begged me to babysit her 9-year-old son Liam for a few weekends. Just until I finish my night course, she said, her tone frantic but hopeful. I'd always had a soft spot for Liam. He was sweet, shy, and obsessed with painting and baking, 2 things we immediately bonded over. I live alone, work freelance from home, and honestly, I was flattered she trusted me. Hannah and I had never been particularly close but cordial. Civil, you know? I'm not married, no kids. Just the quirky aunt type who shows up to birthdays with handmade gifts and vegan brownies. The first weekend went great. Liam and I made sugar cookies shaped like dinosaurs and painted landscapes while watching Studio Ghibli movies. He was laughing, smiling, and even opened up about how school is hard, because he didn't like sports and most of the boys teased him. I told him it was okay to be different, and that kindness mattered more than how far you could throw a football. Second weekend, he asked if boys could marry boys. I answered honestly, yes, they can. If they love each other, they should be able to. He nodded thoughtfully and went back to frosting cupcakes. By the third weekend, Liam had made me a drawing. A picture of us baking with the words, "You make me feel safe," in colored pencil. I cried quietly when he was asleep. Felt like I was doing something right. Then everything went to hell. It started subtly. At family dinner the next week, Hannah was strangely cold toward me. Her husband, Jake, my older brother, avoided eye contact. The usual warm, rowdy chaos of our big Sunday dinners felt brittle. I tried brushing it off until my mother pulled me aside and whispered, "Did you talk to Liam about being gay?" My stomach dropped. Apparently, Hannah had gone around telling the family that I encouraged Liam to explore alternative lifestyles, and confused him, to the point he started acting gay. She claimed I was influencing him because I was projecting my choices onto a vulnerable child. Let me make this clear. I'm bisexual. I've been out for over a decade. It's not some badge I shove into people's faces, but it's also not something I hide. And apparently, that's all Hannah needed to spin this ugly narrative. The family started whispering. I got fewer invites. My cousin stopped letting her daughters hang out with me. Even my own mother said, "You just have to understand how sensitive people are about kids." Sensitive? I was accused of turning a child gay like I'm some wizard with a rainbow wand. I confronted Hannah privately. I asked her why. Why would she say such damaging, hateful things? Her answer? I'm his mother. I know what's best for him. He started acting weird, like wearing colors and singing. That's not him. I stared at her, stunned. Liam's 9, Hannah. 9. And you're policing the colors he wears. She crossed her arms. He said he wants to wear nail polish. He never did that before you. I snapped. Because he finally felt safe. Because you've boxed him in so tight he can't breathe. Her next words made my blood boil. You're pushing your agenda. It's not your place. I walked away, fuming, but I didn't do anything yet. Until Liam called me one night from a hidden number, crying. She said I can't come to your house anymore. I didn't mean to get you in trouble. That broke me. I knew what I had to do. And yes, I'm fully aware how petty this sounds. But I wasn't going to let her weaponize love, mine or Liam's, and use it as a cudgel. You see, Hannah has a secret. Pretty big one. One I never planned on using. But some secrets deserve sunlight. Flashback. 2 years ago, Hannah and I bumped into each other at a small queer art exhibit in the city. She was alone browsing the work. At first I thought she was there for a friend, but then I saw the look she gave one of the artist's, deep longing, a look I knew too well. We grabbed coffee afterward. She was nervous, chatty, awkward. Then she told me. In college she'd fallen in love with a woman. Deeply. Hadn't spoken to her in years, but still thought about her almost every day. I made my choice, she said at the time. I married Jake. I have Liam. But sometimes I wonder if I betrayed something in myself. I kept her confidence. I respected her truth. Until she weaponized mine. So I told my brother. Not in a cruel way. Not with malice. I sat Jake down and explained everything. I told him the truth about what Hannah was spreading, what she was doing to Liam, and why it wasn't just about might, was about control. Then I told him about the woman, the gallery, her confession. Jake went pale, then quiet. And the next day everything blew up. He confronted her. Loudly. In front of the family. Hannah tried to deny it at first. Then Pivotet said I was lying to destroy their marriage. But the damage was done. Jake demanded therapy or a separation. She refused. My mother called me screaming. Said I'd broken the family. I reminded her that Hannah tried to break me first. My cousin finally texted an apology. Others stayed silent. And Liam? He started drawing again. Singing again. Jake lets him come over every other weekend now. We make cupcakes in silence sometimes. But there's healing in that quiet. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes. But mostly, I feel like I protected a child from shame he hadn't even learned to name yet. I didn't turn him gay. But I might have helped him stay himself. The fallout was messy. Jake didn't scream, didn't throw anything. But there's a kind of quiet fury that's more terrifying than rage. I wasn't there, but Liam told me later in a whisper. Dad looked like his heart cracked. The next morning, I got a message from Hannah. I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. He won't look at me. I didn't respond. Jake moved into a friend's guest room. Hannah stayed in the house with Liam. Family text threads went silent. Holidays that used to be crowded and chaotic were now divided. My parents with Hannah, my cousins split down the middle, and Meme and Jake and Liam eating mac and cheese on paper plates in my apartment, because none of us wanted to sit around a table full of fake smiles and bigger lies. And here's where the twist starts. Because for a minute I thought it was over. I thought Hannah had burned through all her fire and venom. But she wasn't done. She just regrouped. 3 weeks later, Liam's school counselor called Jake. Apparently, someone had anonymously reported that Liam was being emotionally manipulated and encouraged to question his gender identity during visits with an unstable relative. The counselor assured Jake it sounded ridiculous, but by policy they had to check. Jake was livid, not just at the report but because the school mentioned a phrase only Hannah used, unstable influence. So Jake filed for emergency custody modification, claimed Hannah was acting erratically and putting their son in the middle of an emotional tug-of-war. He didn't want full custody, just wanted Liam to stay with him until things calmed down. That's when the smear campaign really began. Hannah started posting vague, pointed things on social media. Screenshots of parenting quotes about protecting your son from dark influences. Photos of Liam looking sullen with captions like, "He's not himself anymore." One post had a rainbow emoji with a crying face and the caption, "This isn't who I raised." And then she started talking about me again. In whispered conversations at church, at PTA meetings, through mutual friends, that I was recruiting Liam, that something happened during those sleepovers, that she regretted ever letting me near him. I found out because a mom from Liam's school, someone I didn't even know, came up to me at a grocery store and said, "You should be ashamed." I stood there in the frozen aisle holding a pint of vanilla oat milk ice cream, completely blindsided. I asked what she meant. She just muttered, "You know what you did," and walked away. That night I had my first panic attack in years. Curled up in the kitchen. Couldn't breathe. Jake found me there after I texted him, "Help." He stayed on my couch until morning. Neither of us slept. He filed a restraining order against Hannah the next day. This should have been the end. Really. But it never ends clean when the one throwing stones plays the victim loudest. Hannah hired a lawyer. She said she wanted custody back. Said Jake was letting a mentally unstable bisexual co-parent her child. She brought up my therapy records, my prescription meds, my failed relationship with a woman 3 years ago that ended with me crying in a bar for a week. And she tried to drag Liam into it. She made him speak to a court-appointed evaluator. Coached him probably. But Liam, bless his brave little heart, refused to lie. He told the evaluator he felt safe and happy at my place. That Auntie Ray doesn't make me be anything. She lets me breathe. When that line was read in court, I saw Hannah flinch for the first time. The judge ruled in Jake's favor. Liam stayed with him full-time. Hannah got supervised visits. And then silence. Complete eerie silence. No more posts. No more texts. Nothing. I almost started to relax. Until the letter arrived. It was handwritten, folded 3 times, slipped under my door. You think you've won. But someday he'll blame you for all of this. Someday he'll realize who took his mother away. I'll be waiting for that day. And I'll make sure he knows exactly who you are. No name. No signature. But I knew the handwriting. I still have it. It's in a locked drawer. I don't know why I keep it. Maybe because part of me needs to remember how far someone will go when their shame turns to rage. Because here's the truth people don't like to admit. Bigotry doesn't always come from hate. Sometimes it comes from fear. From shame. From someone who buried a part of themselves so deep, they attack anyone who dares to live openly. And Hannah, she's not a monster. She's a scared woman who made her son a battleground for a war she never resolved with herself. But I'm not her casualty. Liam isn't either. Because here's the real twist. Liam is thriving now. He joined a youth art collective. Last month he painted a mural at school, a giant sun rising over the words, "Be who you are." I cried when I saw it. He still asks questions. He still bakes cupcakes. He wears whatever colors he wants. Jake and I? We co-parent in this weird, non-traditional, beautiful way. We're not perfect. But we're solid. And we always lead with love. As for Hannah, I don't know. She moved across town. Started attending a new church. She occasionally emails Jake asking for updates, trying to sound civil. Sometimes she even asks if I'll let her speak to me. I haven't responded. Forgiveness is complicated. Do I hate her? No. Do I trust her? Not in the slightest. But I'm learning that sometimes, protecting yourself doesn't mean burning bridges, it means building walls with windows. You choose when to open them. Fever. And maybe one day, maybe she'll stand outside mine and say, "I'm sorry." Until then, I'll keep making cupcakes with Liam and painting rainbows on the walls. Because love, when protected fiercely, becomes its own kind of revolution. About 2 months after the custody ruling, I got an email from an unfamiliar name. Charlotte Rivers. At first, I assumed it was spam until I opened it and saw the first line. "You don't know me, but I believe you know Hannah Calloway." I did once. Very well. I sat up straight. She went on to explain that she had dated Hannah in college, that they'd been in a serious secret relationship for nearly 2 years, that she was the one Hannah had mentioned that night at the art gallery, the woman Hannah had loved. But that's not why she was writing. She was writing because Hannah had contacted her recently. "I think she's unraveling," Charlotte wrote. "She told me bits and pieces about what happened with her son, about you, about some betrayal. But the way she talked about it, like it was all your fault, something didn't sit right. So I did some digging. I found the court records, the custody change, the restraining order." She continued, "I'm not trying to stir the pot, but you should know she's planning something. She's angry, Ray. I don't think she's done with you." The email ended with a number. "Call me if you want to talk. Or ignore this and pretend I never existed. I'd understand either way." I didn't call her. Not right away. Instead, I spent that whole night pacing my apartment, thinking about Hannah, about how far she had gone to destroy me, about Liam, about the sheer weight of this twisted spiral we had both been sucked into, and about what kind of person reaches out to a long-lost ex in the middle of a custody battle, not for closure, but for backup in a war she started. But after 3 sleepless nights, I called Charlotte. Her voice was warm, familiar, calmer than I expected. We talked for 2 hours, mostly about Hannah, but also about ourselves, what we'd gone through, who we'd become. Charlotte had moved to Portland, was married to a woman named Maya, and worked in LGBTQ+ youth advocacy. She said reading Liam's statement in court records that Auntie Ray lets me breathe broke her. She offered something I wasn't expecting. "Would Liam like to join our virtual storytelling group? It's for kids with queer family members. Some have 2 moms, some have a gay uncle. Some are just figuring things out and need a safe space." I hesitated. "He's only 9, she replied, "and already knows what judgment feels like. Let's give him a space where he doesn't have to." So I asked Jake, and Jake, after talking to Liam, said yes. Every Thursday evening, Liam logged into the Zoom group. He listened at first, camera off. Then one day he showed up with drawing a dragon wearing pink glittery boots, breathing rainbow fire. The group loved it. Charlotte emailed me later and said, "He's got something special. Let's make sure nobody dims it." Life became livable again, peaceful even, until Christmas. We weren't planning to invite Hannah. Jake didn't want drama, and Liam, though he never said it outright, seemed anxious whenever her name came up. So we kept the day small. Just us, my parents who were finally coming around, and two of our cousins. Then on Christmas morning the doorbell rang. It was Hannah, standing on my porch in a red wool coat, clutching a paper bag and wearing an expression that was equal parts desperation and determination. Jake stepped outside. I stayed back listening from the hallway. She spoke in a low, trembling voice. "I just want to see him. I brought presents. We've been going to therapy." Jake didn't answer immediately. Then I heard him say, "That's good. I hope you're doing it for you." Pause. "I am." Pause. "But also for him." Jake said he'd ask Liam. 5 minutes later, Liam came to the door. He saw his mom and froze. Hannah crouched, opened the bag and took out a familiar box. The art kit Liam had circled in a catalog 2 months ago but never got. Watercolor markers, sculpting clay, metallic paints, the whole set. She handed it to him and whispered, "I remember you said you like silver paint. This one has 6 shades." Liam looked at it, then looked at her. Then he said softly, "You don't have to be mad at Aunt Ray to love me." The silence that followed was unbearable. Hannah blinked. Her lip trembled. But she didn't snap back. Didn't deflect. Didn't deny. She just nodded. "I know," she whispered. "I know, baby." Jake let her come inside. Just for Coco and an hour of gift opening. She stayed on the far side of the room. Didn't cause a scene. Didn't even look at me until the end. As she was leaving, she turned and said quietly, "Thank you for loving him when I didn't know how." I didn't say anything, because I didn't know if I believed her yet. But I nodded. And that was enough for that day. The months that followed were cautious, like walking on thawing ice. Hannah kept her distance but showed up for therapy. She started sending Liam letters, real ones, handwritten, apologizing for small things, for yelling, for lying, for making him feel like who he was made her afraid. And Liam responded. He wrote back. Short, honest replies. Sometimes just one sentence. Sometimes a drawing. He didn't forget what she'd done, but he was willing to see what she'd do now. I, on the other hand, wasn't so quick to forgive. One night I called Charlotte again. Told her everything about Christmas, the letters, the therapy. And she said something that stuck with me. Forgiveness isn't about excusing harm. It's about refusing to let it own you. You don't owe her anything. But if you ever choose to open that door again, make sure it's because you want to, not because anyone else needs you to. And I did open it. Eventually. One spring afternoon, Hannah invited me to coffee. I said yes. We sat in silence for a few minutes before she said, I hated myself. Back then. When I was with you at that gallery. You weren't doing anything wrong. But I saw Liam being happy with you, and he thought if he became anything like that part of me, I'd lose him. I didn't respond. She continued. But the truth is, I didn't lose him. I almost made him lose himself. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want your trust back. Even if it takes years. Probably will. And that's okay. Because I'm no longer carrying the weight of her shame. I'm building something stronger with Jake, with Liam, with myself. And Hannah? She's learning to walk without lying to herself. Maybe that's the beginning of her redemption. Or maybe it's just a story she'll tell herself until she believes it. But for now we coexist. Carefully. Honestly. For Liam. Because sometimes families break. And sometimes they rebuild, not back to what they were but into something new. Something true. Life has a way of testing you just when you think the storm has passed. About 6 months after that coffee with Hannah, things had begun to feel normal, or at least our version of it. Liam was thriving in his new school, still going to Charlotte's online storytelling group, and Jake had finally moved into a new place with an extra bedroom for Liam, decorated with posters of dragons and pastel stars. I had started dating again. A woman named Danny who worked in social work and had this deep, easy laugh that made me feel like I could finally exhale after years of holding my breath. But Hannah's presence, while softer, still hung like a shadow. She was doing the work, I'll admit that. Therapy, volunteering at an LGBTQ+ youth center, something I never expected. At first I thought it was performative, part of a guilt campaign. But Charlotte, who ended up meeting her once through work, told me something surprising. She's not perfect. But she listens now. That meant something. Still, I kept my boundaries. Then came the invitation. Liam was turning 10. Double digits. A milestone. Jake wanted to throw a party at the community center, paint stations, a cupcake bar, even a scavenger hunt. And he wanted Hannah there. Not just as a guest. As a co-host. I was hesitant. Are you sure she's ready for that? Jake's answer surprised me. She asked me. And then she asked Liam. And then she asked if you'd be okay with it. The fact that she'd gone through that sequence meant more than she probably realized. So I said yes. With conditions. No speeches. No rewriting history. She shows up for Liam. That's it. Jake nodded. She understands. The party was beautiful. Liam wore a glittery crown and a shirt that read, Queen of the Castle. Deal with it. He baked the cupcakes himself, with some help from me and Jake, and set up a painting corner where every guest decorated a tile that would eventually become a mural in Jake's backyard. Hannah was quiet, helpful, respectful. She let Liam lead. She didn't flinch when he introduced his two favorite cousins as my theater gays. She even helped clean up paint spills without comment. At one point, she approached me tentatively and handed me a small wrapped box. It's not much, she said. But it's a start. Inside was a charm bracelet with a single charm. A paintbrush. I wanted to give you something that reminded me of what you gave him, she said softly. A place to feel safe. I didn't cry. Not there. But later that night I sat on my balcony, holding that little silver brush and sobbed into the breeze. Not because I'd fully forgiven her, but because I realized I wasn't carrying hate anymore. And that freedom, that was the gift. As seasons passed, our dynamic continued to evolve. Liam started middle school. Jake got promoted and began dating again. Hannah and I weren't friends exactly, but something warmer. Co-conspirators in co-parenting, maybe. She sent me articles sometimes or asked about books Liam might enjoy. She no longer tiptoed around me like I was dangerous or contagious. She spoke to me like I mattered, not just to Liam but in my own right. One day, out of the blue, she asked if I wanted to join them for Pride. I stared at the message for a long time. A year ago, she was accusing me of corrupting her son. Now she was asking me to march beside them? I texted Jake. Me, is she serious? Jake, dead serious. She's even making signs. Hers says, proud mom of a fabulous human. Me, she's really come around. Jake, yeah. Took fire and wreckage. But she's standing in it now. Not pretending the fire didn't happen. So I went. We marched together. Liam led the pack, wearing butterfly wings and a sequin cape. Jake and I followed behind, laughing, sharing sunscreen. And Hannah held a sign in one hand and Liam's hand in the other. At one point, someone from the crowd shouted, "That's a beautiful family." Liam turned and shouted back, "They're my whole family." I don't think I've ever been prouder, or more aware of how long the road had been to get there. A few months later, the mural we all painted at his birthday was finally finished. It was Jake's idea to unveil it with a small gathering. He invited just family and a few close friends. The mural showed a castle with multicolored flags, surrounded by floating paintbrushes, baking utensils, and little glittering hearts. In the corner, in Liam's handwriting, was the phrase, "Safe is where people let you be loud and kind and weird and real." Hannah stood beside me during the unveiling. She whispered, "He gets that from you, you know." I shook my head. "No, he gets that from being loved. Fully. Finally." She nodded. "I'm trying." "I know." And I did. Really. Because people don't change overnight. Some never do. But some stumble and fall and fail again and again until one day they choose to get back up and not just walk but walk forward. That's who Hannah was now. Not a villain. Not a victim. Just a deeply flawed woman who had finally started telling herself the truth. And me? I'm still learning to trust softness. Danny and I moved in together. Liam has his own corner of our housea reading nook full of blankets and art supplies and a small disco ball he turns on every time he visits. Jake drops him off with a wink and a, "Don't let him eat all your sprinkles." We're messy, loud, imperfect, but we are a family, built not on blood or duty or shame, but on love, on second chances, on showing up especially when it's hard. And if you had told me 2 years ago, when I was curled up on my kitchen floor, choking on a panic attack because I'd been accused of turning a child gay, I wouldn't have believed we'd get here. But we did. Because when someone tries to dim a light, and someone else protects it, that light doesn't just survive. It shines brighter. For everyone to see.